you everyone for coming to tonight's presentation on CVs and resumes presented by Caryn Stivelman. Since 2018, Caryn has been Penn Vet's career counselor, working with first through fourth year students in all stages of their career exploration, including resume reviews, cover letter critiques, mock interviews, scholarship applications, and career coaching. She is an accomplished program administrator recognized for developing and evaluating student performance, career development, and success. Prior to Penn Vet, she worked at Penn Dental for 15 plus years as Director of Academic Affairs. She holds 2 master's degrees in bioethics and higher education administration and a bachelor's in English, all from the University of Pennsylvania. When she is not working, you can find her enjoying time with her family, and she recently started curling at the Philadelphia Curling Club. Caryn has the compassion and motivation to see students succeed, which is why she is here today to present her workshop on CVs and resumes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Amanda. I'm really excited to be here tonight. I love doing this type of presentation each year. For me, it's really helpful to connect with students and to be able to help them put their best foot forward, or tooth, or whatever you want to go with, okay? So I am going to put myself off screen while you can see the presentation. Everybody can see it, I hope. So the title of this is Transforming Your Resumes and Cover Letters from Good to Great. By this point in time, you should be able to have a resume. You should have a cover letter. But what I want to make sure of is that it enhances and you put forth all of your positive strengths and what you want to be seen as, or how you want to be seen. So your resume, I look at it as your advertisement. It's your chance to shine. And this is really not the time to be humble about what you're going to bring to the table or what you're going to bring to that practice. There was actually a study done several years ago, and that study actually revealed that employers spend at the very beginning, when they're looking through resumes, 6 to 10 seconds reviewing the materials before putting them in the yay or the nay pile. Now, I don't know about you, I would really want to end up in the yay pile, because when you have an organization of your information and it's efficient and it shows the relevancy of your experiences, and they're looking at this resume, even the cover letter, it's a testament to your written communication skills. And as you know, having that patient in the chair or that client in the chair, or even if you're collaborating with other your dental staff, it's really important to have those communication skills, whether written or oral. And that's what this presentation is actually going to concentrate on. So what I normally get is the question of, do I put forth a CV or a resume? Honestly, a CV is an advertisement of your qualifications and strengths, just like a resume is. And it's used mostly in academia, though, and research. And a CV is going to be 3 or more pages. Think of the resume like a snapshot to highlight your skills to an employer through the responsibilities and accomplishments that you list. And a resume is usually 1 or 2 pages. Now, I personally do not add skills to a resume. Rather, I'm going to incorporate these in a cover letter or a personal statement that you have to write for an externship, but I'm going to talk more on that later. As we go along in the presentation, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat because they'll be answered later on. So jam-packing your resume with every detail is going to actually reduce the chance that the employer's eye is going to land on what you want them to see. So really think about, again, going back to that advertisement, what do you want to advertise? Do you want to advertise research or your dental experience? Maybe leadership. Maybe you want to talk to them about collaborations in clubs or study abroad. But give the majority of your resume's real estate to the most recent and relevant information. And each section should be listed from most recent to least recent experiences. So when I talk about guidelines, I'm not one for sticking to rules, but I do have some of these guidelines. And I beg you, you really need to use spell check. It's there for a reason. I used to have resumes when I was when I was an academic director at the dental school, at Penn's Dental School. I used to have students come in and I would read the resumes over and over. And the one word that students would constantly spell wrong is Philadelphia. And you're living in Philadelphia for 2 or 4 years, going through going through your 4 years of dental school, and you should by now know how to spell Philadelphia. So again, use spell check, okay? And that seems like such a simple, common sense thing. And yet, when you're looking at a resume over and over again, you're not even going to look at it to see the correct spelling. So make sure that you proofread over and over. So resume formatting templates, I'm going to tell you, they are available online and it's for visual appeal. But first, you definitely want to have the relevant information. You want to have good verb choice. That's important because if you have really powerful action verbs, it's going to take you from a passive role in your experiences to an active role. Are you a doer or a helper? And that's really the difference between the two. You want to keep the descriptions nice and tight, concise. Avoid assisted dentist with hygiene instruction for clients. So rather place the assistance part at the end of the bullet so you show a more active role. So for example, instead of assisted dentist with hygiene instruction, try this: educated clients about hygiene instruction alongside dentist or in collaboration with dentist. It takes on a very different appeal. Do you diagnose? Do you administer, monitor anesthesia? Do you develop anything? That's the powerful action verbs I'm looking for. And one thing I definitely want you to do is delete any redundant words. I want you to also use bullet points if you can. As you see on my screen, I have bullet points. It's just very easy to look at a list. You don't really want to include long lines of descriptive text. And if you put yourself in the place of the human resume reviewer, that person is likely reading dozens of resumes at a time. So you want to make sure that you justify your dates or locations or even both. And it gives your resume a clean and easy read for them to look at. If you prioritize your information, a barista rather than a dental experience, I think I'd rather see the dental experience. Definitely keep your sports in there if you played in undergrad, because it's going to show a team player. You have to remember, I may not be a dentist, or from my past experience, a veterinarian, because I work with professional veterinary students. But one thing I do is read a lot of these resumes, and I'm coming at it from a very different perspective. So when you're talking about collaborate in a resume, that means you're working with people, and that is a great thing to do. Did you do any research? Because research is going to take on a totally different set of skills along with critical thinking and collaborating. And when you think about quantifying information, I'm talking about how many students did you tutor? How often did you volunteer? And how much money did you make? That's what's going to set you apart. I want to move on now to creating the resume header. So what we're going to do is actually build the resume together. So having the right header, the layout, and the relevant information are some steps to ensure the hiring manager reads your materials. And if you don't have an updated LinkedIn account, do not include. As I go through the next few slides, I have received the confirmation of and permission to use these. These are actual resumes or portions of resumes that students have worked with me on. So please feel free to unmute yourself. As you look at this resume header, feel free to unmute and let me know what you like or what you don't like about this header. No answer is silly. Do I have any takers for telling me what they like or don't like about this header? Is it catchy? Is it not? No one? You're
Hello,
all going to be shy tonight?
hello. Can I speak?
Hi.
Hi, my name is Rohit, and for me, this header looks like it's too bland. It's not that attractive. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I feel.
I'm not going to correct you, Rohit, because you know what? It is pretty boring. It's not popping for me. There's a few things also that I don't like about it, but I want to see if you're right, it's boring. So that's first. Yes, we need some oomph, maybe some bold, some italics somewhere. Anybody else want to put in their 2 cents worth?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel like when you look at it, the right things are highlighted. Like when you look at it, everything is in a mess, so nothing is really catching eye at first. You're not like directed at all. I don't know if that makes
That's
sense.
correct. That's
Yeah.
how I feel too. So let me tell you a few things that came to mind for me as well. And we're going to make this pop, okay? There's redundant words in here. You don't need to tell me what your email is, because as soon as I see that little @ sign, I know it's an email, or the phone number, 10 digits. I'm going to know that. You don't need the zip code. And the other thing, choose just one email or phone number to include on the resume, because then it just confuses them as to which email they should use or shouldn't. Put it all in one color. I don't care if you have, let's say, the section headers, which I have some students do, section headers in a different color. That's okay. I don't have an issue with that. But I do have an issue with having it all different colors in one area. So here's some ideas that I came up with for your viewing pleasure. And remember, these are merely suggestions. The style you choose is a very personal preference. So you can bold like I did in the after, the first after. I decided for both of those afters, I put in some lines, give it a little splash. You don't have to do that. But I also use something called small cap. And it sort of changes it. If I didn't want it all in caps, my name, it sort of changes it to be a little softer. But look how I separated out the address with the phone number. I did use one phone number here. I did use one address. And here's another one. If again, you could put it all the way to the right with bold, and then everything underneath very simple. So again, this is a very personal choice. Now, another question that I always get a lot is whether to add or not to add an objective or a professional summary, or what I call a profile or a career summary. Now, I have to be honest, I have strong opinions if you haven't figured that out yet. I'm not a fan of either of these, but especially if you're just getting started in the field. But let's say you have an extensive history of employment. I think it's a great thing to highlight in a career summary. Absolutely. So if you have like 10 years, 5 years, that's when you're going to use a career summary. And if you use a resume objective, it's fantastic when you go to a career fair, because if I'm looking for an externship or full-time employment, that's what I'm going to add into the resume objective. Right? Especially coming right out of school where you don't have that really hefty experience. So let me tell you something about both of these. Both are placed at the top of the resume, but right after the header and right before education. Both are going to summarize your qualifications so that the employers get a quick overview. And both are going to depend on your job experience, your level, and the position that you are applying for. So I'd like, if you don't mind, to give you an example of an objective statement. So I want you to take note how the person is highlighting the position he or she is seeking orthodontic internship in an academic setting reputed for its excellence in providing high level of care for patients in order to strengthen my clinical and communication skills. So here you have what you're trying to get out of the internship and the position you're going for. And yet the resume profile sample serves a very different purpose. It's going to explain the number of years of experience, or in this sense, a broad experience in general dental medicine, and it gives a little bit of your strengths, as you see, goal-oriented, well-honed customer service and relationships, able to work well in a team environment. So what you're doing, you're providing a summary of skills and the value you will bring to the company. And again, it's a very different feel. We're going to
Can I ask
switch
a
gears.
question?
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can also, if I'm going a little fast, you can also put the questions in the chat as well.
So in the previous slide, can you bring up the previous slide, please?
Sure.
Yeah. Can you tell me the difference between like the objective statement and resume profile, like these two?
Sure. So one is very specific. Objective statement is really when you're a few years out in your career or when you are a student in your career. So maybe you're looking for a summer internship or an externship. That's when you would use this. Or if you're at a career fair and you're giving in your resume along for, you know, in a pile of other resumes that other students have given. So you would give something like this: I'm seeking an orthodontic internship and I'm trying to strengthen my skills. So it has the actual reason for why you're submitting a resume. You're outlining the skills that you want to build on. Whereas the other, the profile, is very specific. And I put this in an effort, if you wanted to use this as a student and you have a lot of dental experience, well, then you could use this as a student as well. But usually this is more for 5-10 years into your career. And again, it's summarizing the good qualifications and your strengths. What is it that you are going, why is this the best fit? Why are you the best candidate for the job? Why? Because I have great customer service relationships. I work well in a team environment. I have a broad experience in dental medicine. So it's really this eyeball of looking at what you have to offer, the value you're bringing, whereas objective is exactly the skills you're trying to build on. Does that answer your question? It's subtle. It's subtle.
Yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. So now we're going to switch gears. These, again, are real resumes provided by dental students I've worked with in the past. And anything on a resume can be enhanced so that your document comes alive to the hiring manager. So what do you like? I'm going to ask you to unmute yourselves again. Don't be shy. What do you like? What don't you like? Do you think all of this information should even be in there?
Personally, I feel that there is no uniformity in it.
Correct. It's not organized in a way I would like. The GPA, if you're going to add a GPA, it should be in the top 10. But when you're putting GPAs on the line like this, that is taking up 4 lines. And remember, I'm all about the real estate. So if they ask for a transcript, don't even worry about putting the GPA on the resume. This individual included the high school. So we're not going to include the high school. This is not an autobiography. I don't need that. And the high school is so long, so delete. You want to concentrate on undergraduate and graduate. So we're going to get rid of high school. If you want, you could put the date and or location, justify it so that it's very easy to see the history very quickly. Again, we're going to get rid of the delete. We're deleting the GPA unless it's in the top 10. And I see here currently enrolled. You could just put DMD expected, or, you know, and then the date on the side or the location on the side from your school. So let me show you what I did. Some other ideas. Here's what it looks like. So I pared it down, if you believe it. It is the same thing. This has a completely different feel. I still want the bold in there. I even decided, you know what? I'm going to italicize the degrees. Okay. So it's organized. You can list scholarship and awards right under. So you see where it says Dean's List all semesters. You can also put your awards and scholarships right under there if you wish. So it took up 25 lines. And now we cut it down to 12 lines. So this is your side by side. We cut the number of lines in half, and I'm going to think that the second half, the after, is definitely more appealing. And you can see immediate impact of what these simple changes, and again, they are simple. We're not going to lie here. They are simple, but look at how the impact is when you make these changes. You add a little highlight, you delete the high school, delete the redundant words. It's completely different. We're going to move on to a different section. Now, the next section is usually dental experience or research once we get through education. We're going to focus here on research. And I want you to think about whether you attended conferences, did you give oral and poster presentations, do you have any publications? This can all be listed under each individual research experience. Now, what do you think about this? Do you like this? Don't you? Is it missing information? Does it have all the information? Come on, someone else. I want to hear another voice. All right, you're just going to have to hear mine. So let me tell you a few things I don't like. Spelling. Experience is spelt wrong. There's no location, so I'm really not sure where this happened. I'm going to guess Penn Dental or on Penn's campus, but I want to see Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't need the redundant words, just get right into reviewed implementation of oral hygiene instructions. And I want to know where the findings were. Where did you present them? Was it a conference? Was it a thesis? What was it? So a question that I receive a lot is when I come straight from dental school, I don't have a long work or employment history. What do I do? So I want you to really think back on the experiences, both paid and unpaid. You can include shadowing experience, community service experiences, internships or externships, obviously research, and these can all come under their separate headings. So that way it shows that you have a lot more than you think you do. And when you think about this, instead of reviewed, maybe you want to use investigated, analyzed, assessed, calculated. It really, the verb change or the verb choice really packs a punch to what you want them to see and the impact it can make. So here's what it looks like. This really changed here. So we have a little bit of bold in there. We decided to italicize. We have bullets, and we changed the wording, and we put educated and fielded questions from families in waiting room. It comes across for you specifically in the fact that, again, for me, I feel like it really elevates the language, and it also shows you're an active member. So here's the side by side. It does change, and while the number of lines are very close, I feel like it really helps the situation when you do change that, because when a person is looking at the entire resume, they're going to go bold, bold, bold. They're going to see the facilities, the institutions. When you have italics, they'll see your degrees in italics, and they will see the different positions or clubs that you were a part of. So again, the use of italics, the change of wording, active versus present, passive. And for the research, don't forget those conferences. This is another one that I struggled with. And sometimes it's not just about reducing the lines. It's really about the formatting and the organization of the information. So a really, really bright woman that I worked with submitted this to me for critiquing. To be honest, her resume was 7 pages long, or what she called a resume. It was really a CV. She was really an impressive woman. It was one of those people with the whole package, high GPA, lots of awards, leadership, research, dental experience, community service, the whole shebang. And you really do want to appreciate all of these activities that she was involved in, but you do need to space this out. So do I have any takers on what you like about this or don't to start?
it's too much.
That's for sure. I don't know what caught your attention, but all of those ritual chairperson, image chairperson, all the things under the sorority, a bit much. I agree. Anyone else want to share their ideas or thoughts?
The
Well, I
information
have,
is too congested.
sorry,
You
what
can
was that, Roby?
the information is very congested.
Yeah, that's the best word for it, congested, because you really, and a lot of repetition. Check this out. Pendental, pendental. We get it. You're at pendental. I get it, right? Spelling, again. The dates are not in most recent to least recent order. A lot, too much information, TMI. And all of this, community was also put under leadership. So you have community and leadership. So I feel like there's so much more we could do with this. So let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to list the school once at the beginning of the section. You could put the school in bold, you could do italics, however you're doing it, but just make it consistent. I appreciate all the details. It's a bit overloaded. You're not performing the rituals when your patient is in the chair, so maybe it's not necessary to include all of this. The descriptions, short and concise, delete the irrelevant words and information, and the spacing. So, would you believe it looks like this now? Total change. So, what did we do? We put the school in bold with the location. In this instance, the person decided that they're going to only justify all the dates. And if you see, they all line up on the right side of the margin when you're looking at this. What we also did was we decided to put in italics the name of the club or the society or the association, along with the position, whether it's a member or a president or a vice president. And imagine that one hard return in between each of these makes a huge difference. And also one other thing that I did not mention, and I want to mention, is to watch your verb tenses. So if you completed the activity already, you want to use the past tense. If you're still in the role, use the present tense verbs. Let's move on to teaching experience. Now, there was a lot of teaching at Penn Dental, so if you wanted, you can group the courses together. And it's really not, so here, we're going to take out that, a little bit of redundancy here. I don't need to keep repeating where I've done this. It can be listed after. And I'm also worried it's not important the office in which you worked for the tutoring. It's really the subject matter. Act as a voluntary academic mentor. We need to get rid of the redundancy. And I do believe we know what a piano teacher is. They're giving the lessons. I get that. But we do want to change it slightly. So what we did was we bolded and we put the location. We once again justified all of the dates to the right side, and we simply listed the tutor. What did we tutor? And here we have it. Same thing under John Hopkins, same thing for independent tutoring, and definitely the independent piano teacher. And that just about says it all. So look how much real estate we're cutting out. And yet it still looks very organized, very clear. And it's not that the first before picture is. They use the bold, they use the dates, they did justify. But there's also information missing, the location, all of that. Some of the locations are in there, some of it is not, so it's inconsistent again. And that's what I really want to show you. So that takes me through resumes. I do want to talk to you about a checklist that I put together. So when we do a resume, you have to remember the purpose of the document. And this is going to bring us into the second part of my presentation, is what the resume is for. A lot of the time you're maybe going for a scholarship. So you want to make sure that all of this information is set up so that it shows off information that pertains to the scholarship. If you're going for a research position, you want to customize the resume to fit the research position. So remember to understand the purpose of the document, and you want to show the achievements to make you stand out. Less is more. I'm going to tell you, less is always more. And there's no need for fancy or cute. You want to keep this very simple, clear, and concise. Because again, 6 to 10 seconds, I'm bringing that back in. That's what they're looking for. They have 6 to 10 seconds to quickly eyeball your resume, and you want them to get on the real estate you want to sell. Formatting matters. The fonts, the size, the margins, the consistency. So if you're going to bold one institution, you bold them all. If you're going to italicize one position or degree, you italicize them all. Content is important. You want to definitely engage your reader with fantastic verb choice. List the experiences in reverse chronological order. Use bullet points to present your responsibilities. Again, no lengthy paragraphs, no full sentences. We'll talk about the cover letter because that's where that lengthy paragraph is going to come in. Eliminate the redundant words like a, and, the, responsibilities included. Here is my email. If you have language proficiency, embed that language proficiency in responsibilities. So maybe you had, you were translating Spanish or another language, and that allows the client to feel more comfortable in the chair. You're already establishing that rapport with them. So you want to embed the language proficiency in the responsibilities. And don't forget to proofread. So by knowing how to write the value of your skills and the value of your experiences, you can absolutely write a resume that highlights how your skills fit the position that you are applying for. And if discussing required qualifications, you have to always check off those boxes. So if they have certain requirements, you got to meet those, but sometimes they have preferred. So we'll talk about getting around that in just a moment. So here are some of my tips for reading job descriptions. Again, most important qualifications or preferred are going to be listed first. So you definitely want to meet them, emphasize in your resume or cover letter. You want to pay attention to those preferred versus required qualifications and check for key words. So if they're talking about, oh, you're going to be managing meetings, well, then discuss a successful meeting you organized at your previous job. And if you're just out of college, discuss the club meetings you've held or discussions that you've led. When I talk about transferable skills, these are those soft skills. You always want to highlight the skills that you have and not what you don't have. The hard skills are those technical, clinical skills, the measurable, tangible proficiencies you have, whereas the soft skills are really not quantifiable. So what do I mean by soft skills? Transferable skills: creativity, multitasking, teamwork, leadership, critical thinking, collaborations, communication, both written and oral, flexibility, problem solving. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if I have any HGTV fans out there, remember how they have those house hunters and they show you 3 houses and they have 3 boxes to check. This one's good location. This one has, lock key. You can move in right away. There's 3 boxes. Notice that you never check all 3 boxes. A job search is just that way. You are not going to be checking off every skill, every qualification, but you do want to hone in on those strengths. So what I want to do is go through 2 job descriptions so that you understand how I would like you to go about reading it. Okay. So you want to first, I say here, I've written down, consider the job responsibilities listed. Think about your own experiences. Wonderful. They're first interested in this particular Premier Dental. You show a first interest in lifelong learning, continuing education, and growth, both professionally and personally. And they not only mention it once, they mention it twice in here. So I find that very interesting. So this is something they're honing in on. Now, the technical skills you're going to have, but you want to prove that you have those transferable skills. So maybe you want to, some job descriptions are going to go into great lengths, and all others are going to go along with a list of benefits. So this one is talking about, oh, well, we educate patients on oral hygiene practice and we collaborate with people. So in this case, match the resume, match the cover letter. Talk about your rapport with the patients, or even your collaborations with your dental team, like the hygienists and your specialists. When they talk about growth for you, professional development, personal growth, continuing education, maybe you too have that passion for teaching. So maybe you want to talk about your TA position, or even the additional CE, or maybe some certifications that you also completed. And then they talk here about communicating effectively. So you want to talk about how you communicate effectively, maybe as a leader, maybe as a team member or a team captain. So just provide those solid examples in your cover letter. The resume, 2 distinctions. The resume is showing your accomplishments, your responsibilities. A cover letter, a very, very different feel. The cover letter in and of itself is going to discuss your experiences and your strengths, or the abilities that you have, or the skills that you developed through the experiences listed on the resume. So beware of how this is very distinguished between a cover as well as the resume. So I want to give a second example. And this second example uses, honestly, half the ad to sell their location and the benefits. We're located 1.5 hours from Nashville and Huntsville. We're an hour from this. We're in a growing city, low cost of living, great opportunity. Well, that's a lot, but there's not much on the qualifications, the real details that you're looking for. Do I have the qualifications to meet this? So what did they do? Talk about the DDS or the DMD. They did talk about even the licensing. So how are we going to match this? So if you really look at this, maybe you want to hone in on, and they talk about this. They talk about anesthesia. They also talk about specifically some of the, hold on, it was in this one. Hold on, where is it? They talk about the different, okay, this is dentist. Oops, sorry about that. Sorry. They talk about, I think it was the first one. They do talk about certifications that they're looking at or whatnot, but some will talk about the equipment that they have. So if they talk about the equipment, well, then talk about your own technical skill on that equipment. And if they maybe talk about they want to provide support for you to be successful, there's no reason for you not to ask if they have a mentorship program or someone that you can meet with as a guide to help you. And that's how you can match the cover letter and your resume to the position. So I want to give you a few final thoughts on resumes before we move on to cover letter. I know I'm covering a lot in this, and we'll take questions definitely at the end, and I'm happy to answer them. Just write them in the chat as we're going along. So I talked to you that you see your resume again and again and again. So you definitely want to ask someone else to read it so that they can give a fresh perspective on it. Poor spelling errors and tweets, that's going to make, if it's really negative and there's errors in the tweets, that's going to really make for a negative impression. And in this day and age, people are looking at your social media. So clean it up if you can. In Facebook, post appropriate photos, You with a beer bong, that's not actually going to cut it. So make sure that you don't exaggerate. You make sure that you are giving off a professional feel. Make sure the email address is also professional. And one other thing, when you are applying somewhere and you are giving a PDF, you're giving the resume, make sure it's in a PDF, because sometimes the formatting could get a little wonky if there's different editions of the Microsoft, or they don't update their Office suite, whatnot. So you want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date and it's PDF, so that way it's exactly the way you want to show it. Okay, so this takes us to another portion of this. Some of you may be applying in the next year or two for an externship, or maybe even an internship. So you're going to have to provide for residencies. You may be needing a personal statement. So that being the case, the length should not exceed 1 page. Let's talk about what this personal statement is. It is an essay. It addresses your interests, any personal experiences that made you a stronger person or that made you the person that you are. They want to know about your career path. They want to know what your values are. Are your values going to align with their program? You want to obviously link your experiences to your studies and activities. But when I say the length should not exceed 1 page, it should be about 4 to 5 paragraphs. So let's break this down, shall we? You want to talk about who you are. So you may wonder in this first paragraph, is it wise to state your career goals, like general practice? I want to move on to a residency or specialty. It's in everyone's best interest if you state your goals from the onset. That way, they're already going to determine whether the program of interest is a good fit. Now, if you intend to use the first 5 months of the program to determine your career goals because you're really not sure yet, it is absolutely okay to state, I have an interest in ABC, but I'm open to other opportunities. I'm excited to explore additional opportunities. That is okay to have. The next few paragraphs are going to talk really about your skills and your interests. So you want to use the paragraphs to outline unique and your formative experiences for advanced training that brought you to this point. You want to highlight experiences that are going to separate you from other applicants. And especially with those transferable skills we talked a few slides back, communication, maybe some business acumen. Consider even including a statement indicating that your experience gave you the opportunity to recognize that the demands of the residency training, you are dedicated and eager and prepared to fulfill those requirements. You want to tidy up the whole personal statement in the end about what you are absolutely going to bring to the residency program. And here it's really important about your creativity and the attributes you're going to bring, because in this last paragraph, you want to support your candidacy. So just saying I'm a hard worker and I have a charming personality, that's going to backfire. You want to give that specific example. That's what's going to work in your favor. Give the example of hard work or how you persevered or a unique understanding of the task of the advanced training, because in the end, you want to gain the credibility that you can do that internship or externship. So we're going to go into those now. That's the personal in case you decide you are going in for a residency. But let's turn the tables now. And let's say you're just looking for a job straight out of dental school. You are definitely going to want to write a cover letter. And before we get into some of my great tips for that, I think it's important to understand again the purpose of a cover letter. So a cover letter is that first opportunity for you to impress the hiring managers, but it's also the first opportunity to disappoint them. So again, it's a window into your communication and your people skills. It's a window into your work habits and your enthusiasm for the job. And it's going to explain that here's the difference between just asking for a job and a cover. It's what you can do for the practice, not what your needs are. So again, it's a great way, this is how I say it, to prove what you've got, what the organization is looking for. So drum roll, please. Without further ado, here are my top tips. This is according to me. These are just my personal tips. Tip number one, you want to match the qualifications. Now, a few slides back, we talked about customizing the resume, but you also need to do that for your cover letter. So if you're sending out the same cover letter for each job and you're just changing the company name and to whom it may concern, you're really doing it wrong. A good cover letter should be personalized to the job you are looking for. Now, that doesn't mean you can't reuse pieces of the letter over and over again, but really change the letter to match the position. So if, let's say you're talking about research, well, then you want to explain why, what caught your eye in that first paragraph about this particular position, about the research and why you would be a good match, just an overview. And then talk about your research experience and your dental experience and how it meshes and matches to the person and the values and why you're a good candidate for that. So pull out the requirements of the job, then include the right and relevant experiences on your resume, and then the research, that's my tip number two. Whoops. My tip number two, the research, is going to give you an idea of the practice and the culture. So make sure that you look up their website and maybe the reviews and if there's any turnover that's happening on, in their practice, because that's a very good eye-opener there. Now, this one, a lot of people will write to whom it may concern. And for me, I feel like that's a big disqualifier. I feel like it's not personal. A cover letter should really have your passion. It should really focus on your passion and why you are excited or enthused about the job. If you have to whom it may concern, or even dear sir or madam, I give it a hard pass because it shows you really didn't take the time to do some research. Is it a committee that this is going to? Try to make every attempt to address the cover letter to an actual hiring manager. Maybe it's the human resources or the general manager of the firm or the company. And if you really don't know who that is, check the company website, even reach out to human resources. But if you can't find the name, then simply address the letter to what the advertisement states. Dear selection committee, dear research, position, you're looking for that research position, dear research selection committee. So that way it feels like you've done a little bit more. Now, again, we talk about a good cover letter being personalized, but what you want to do is not regurgitate the resume. So you want to be concise with the detail and the responsibilities, but in the cover letter, give the further details to illustrate what you bring to the job. So as here, expanding on your accomplishments, maybe, you started a tutoring service and you had 3 people, and the fact that you feel so comfortable working with students and being able to put this in layman's terms for them to understand, you feel so excited and comfortable, and you feel like it's a good establishing of trust between you and the students. Expand on that job. Expand on the experience, and that will take you a very long way, and that will really give you an idea of what they're looking for and who you are. For example, and I think I want to give this more thought here, okay? So when I say to you that you want to make sure that you're not regurgitating, I'm highly sensitive when interacting with patients, and my organizational and record-keeping skills are exemplary. Above all, I have a wide range of experience and expertise it would be my pleasure to share my dedication and professionalism with. So when I read this, I feel like you're just listing highly sensitive, organizational, exemplary, organization keeping, record keeping. But I want you, if you can flesh it out just a little more, I'm not saying write 3 paragraphs about it, but add a little more, because when you do add that, it provides a bit of personality to the letter and they get to feel who you are. If you provide illustrations of your own abilities, that's going to make your cover letter that much more unique. Again, don't describe yourself, showcase yourself. Again, not the time to be humble. Showcase your skills by using a narrative paragraph. Do you work effectively with others? Well, then cite examples in your cover letter. Articulate it like this. I am highly sensitive when interacting with patients, as they are often nervous or worried during their visit. Patients have thanked me time and again for my knowledgeable care and calm demeanor in keeping their gums and teeth healthy and clean. My organizational record-keeping skills are exempt, and I keep detailed, efficient progress notes on each patient. So even from this, I'm showing that discussion, I'm fleshing my story out. And again, I will keep telling you this, and I'm sorry, I must sound like a broken record to you. Nothing turns off an employer more than grammatical errors or misspellings. So be sure to proofread. A couple of additional tips I have: hiring managers are not going to have time to read a saga. So again, resume, 1 or 2 pages. Sometimes an advertisement will say, give me a CV, when they really mean resume. So just get that. It could be interchangeable, but for the cover letter, it should only be just 1 page. If it's only 1 or 2 paragraphs, though, you can't make it too short. It's unlikely you're making that compelling case for yourself as the candidate that they're looking for. And if the font is a little too small, I think you don't want them having to pull out a magnifying glass to read your letter or your materials. And again, let friends, family, boyfriend, girlfriend, even the dog, all right, maybe not the dog, let family and friends review your letter, and they could provide suggestions that maybe you haven't even considered bringing up. Ask them, does the letter sell you as the best person for the job? Does the letter pull the reader in, or is it a snooze fest? So you definitely want to make sure of that. So I'm going to pass this back to Amanda. Amanda has a few announcements to make about upcoming programming, but I want to stop here so that she can make announcements. And then at the end, I want to make sure that I can answer any of your questions. And I'm happy to do so. Please stay with us through the announcements so that I can answer questions. Amanda, back over to you.
Thank you, Caryn, for your wonderful presentation. If anybody has any questions, my email is on the screen, arb@padental.org. Caryn's email is also on the screen. Oh,
Sharing that screen again. There you go.
all right, Caryn's is also on the screen as well. If you have any questions, you can go to the next slide. And if anybody is looking for a mentor, Pennsylvania Dental Association does have a mentoring program. You can go to padental.org/connections. We will hand match you with a mentor based on their practice type, practice location, and specialty. We have a ton of students who are involved in this program, and they really love it and find it very helpful.
I have a question.
Yes.
How does this work, pediadental.org? Like,
So that is Pennsylvania Dental Association's personal site. We do have tips for dental students on there, as well as the connection program. If you're interested, just type padental.org into your browser.
okay, thank you.
Next slide.
Yep. And Caryn is presenting on April 24th at 7 p.m. on interview do's and don'ts. If you are interested in joining, you can scan the QR code to register. She'll be going over, what you do want to see in an interview and what you don't want to see in an interview. So join us on April 24th.
I'll have tips, strategies, lists of questions. It's going to be, we're going to go over elevator pitches and whatnot. So we'll have a lot of information jam-packed, and I'll be able to answer your questions as well.
You can go to the next slide. Does anybody have any additional questions? I did not see any in the chat.
I just have a question. Like on 24th of April, we do have our finals. So is there any chance we will get the recording of that webinar?
Yeah, I was planning on sending the recordings out to most likely your school emails.
Okay.
I'll send this one as well as the other one out.
Okay.
your
Thank
email.
you so much.
Are there any additional questions?
No questions are silly. No questions are off the table. Either that or it was very thorough presentation.
All right. Well, with that, thank you everyone for attending, and thank you, Caryn, for presenting. That is all I have for you tonight, and we hope to see you at the next webinar on April 24th.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.